Hey guys, I'm back with another video. With Cataclysm raids coming right around the corner, I want to give you my 4 best compositions you could possibly have in a 10-man scenario for both just regular and heroic. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. We're going to go over why they're good, loot distribution, and what these comps bring to the table as far as buffs, reses, and things of that nature. Real quick, obviously you're not going to have the perfect 10-man comps, especially if you're doing looking for raid or you're just finding people and looking for group, but these are good comps that you kind of want to use as a template. Real quick, including myself, I want to give myself a giant F because my 4 best comps that I have do not include prot warriors, so sad days for us, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Now this is my very bis top of the bis S tier composition. This is like if you had the Avengers and then let's sprinkle in a couple DC characters like Superman, Martian Manhunter, and Wonder Woman, and then somehow Goku and Gohan come into the mix and help too. So you have the best team ever assembled. This is easily the best comp you could have in a 10-man setting. So we're going to go ahead and grab our Blood DK, obviously. Now, instead of a prot paladin, we're going to go ahead and grab our Feral Druid. We're going to go ahead and grab our Arms Warrior, our Ret Paladin, and our Survival Hunter. Now for our healers, we're going to rock a Disc Priest and an H-Pal. We're going to grab our Elemental Shaman, which Elemental Shamans in Cataclysm are easily the most underrated class, I would say. Now we're going to grab our Boomkin, and then last but not least, our heavy firepower, the Fire Mage. Look at this comp. Chef's kiss, beautiful. You literally cannot beat this comp. And now let's scroll down and look at why. So I'm going to make sure you guys can see it. I know my cam's kind of in the way, but looking at our offensive spells, obviously we get Time Warp from the Mage, Bloodlust. We get buffs, we get Kings, we get Wild, we get all of our Strength and Agi. We also get Communion. We get Blood Frenzy, we get Abomination's Might, we get Blessing of Might, Wind Fury Totem, Hunting Party, which includes Haste. We get Sunder Armor, Fairy Armor, Earth and Moon from the Boomkin, Totemic Wrath, Mangle, Blood Frenzy, Critical Mass, Wrath of Air. We're literally getting everything you would possibly want. Look at the boxes. They are all checked for any sort of buff that you would want. Now looking at defensive, obviously you get your Fort, Commanding Shout, Stone Skin, Frost Fever, Thunderclap, a lot of warrior abilities here, Demoralizing Shout, Demoralizing Roar, Scarlet Fever. This comp is unbeatable as far as bringing anything to the table. And now why I like this comp the most though is that there really isn't that much loot competition. You have a Fire Mage, a Balanced Druid, and Elemental Shaman all using different types of armor. Now obviously they're going to fight over rings and trinkets like that, but as far as like actual armor, there's not much competition, especially between the Priest and the H-Pal. And even from the melee standpoint, you have a plate, a leather, another plate, which the blood and the arms probably aren't competing that much, but then you do have a Ret and Survival. But overall, from just a armor standpoint, not including rings and trinkets, obviously there's always competition for those. There is not a lot of competition for loot here, but also the best group that you could possibly have. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So for my next group here, sorry, I got a script going here. My next group is kind of like the same thing, just a little bit different. Obviously, we're going to go Blood DK. You're going to find Blood DK is an absolute must if you want to have a bis comp here. We're going to go ahead and grab our Protection Paladin. We're going to grab a Feral Druid, not from a tank standpoint. Now, obviously, the Protection Paladin could also, or the Blood DK could also DPS in a different setting. We're going to have our Arms Warrior, which is also pretty much a must. Arms Warrior in Cataclysm is just insane. We're going to grab our Survival Hunter. And then for our group 2 here, H-Pal, Elemental Shaman. You're going to find in pretty much every good 10-man comp, you're going to have an H-Pal. You're going to have an Elemental Shaman. That's just how it is. Balanced Druid. Now instead of, I already forgot what our last comp had. Instead of this, we're going to grab a Warlock, and then we're going to grab our Fire Mage. Now the same thing here is pretty much every single box is ticked except for Replenishment, which could be a big deal. But as far as our defensives as well, you're getting that too. You are not getting Ancestral Healing, and you're not getting a 3% damage. So obviously not the best comp compared to the last one, but a lot of what you're looking for is checked off. Now, same thing here, not a lot of loot competition. Obviously, you have the Warlock and the Mage, but overall, Balanced Druid, Elemental Shaman, different, H-Pal, and then obviously your melee doesn't have that much competition either. Now, I did say LE Shaman or Balanced Druid. One of those is going to have to flex to a heal at some point. just so you guys keep that in mind. I only put one healer in here, the H-Pal, but one of them potentially would have to flex. Again, this is a great composition. Let's look at some other ones. Now, this one isn't, I wouldn't say great, but like if you're looking to just melee it up, this is the way to go. Melee cleave group, here we go. Blood DK, as always. You're going to go ahead and rock a Feral Druid. You're going to grab a Ret Paladin, an Enhancement Shaman, which we haven't covered yet. We're going to grab a Arms Warrior. Now for group 2, it's going to have some melee in there as well. You're going to have to put a Rogue. You're going to have to grab a Rogue. You're going to have to grab your Survival Hunter. And then we're going to grab a Disc Priest, again an H-Pal, and then a Fire Mage. Now, obviously, you're adding a whole nother melee class in here with the Survival Hunter. Not much caster DPS. Literally, you're only your Fire Mage. Now, scrolling down, believe it or not, all of what you need is covered. It just depends on how much you value casters in that AoE DPS. So this is a beautiful melee group. Now, the problem here, obviously, is a lot of loot competition when it comes to rings, trinkets, not necessarily gear in itself, just because the 2 tanks are different, but you do have a Ret, a Paladin, or I'm sorry, an Arms Warrior, an Enhancement Shaman. So again, we're rocking Blood DK, Feral Druid, Ret, Enhancement, Arms, Combat, Survival, Disc, Holy Paladin, and Fire Mage. Now, if any sort of ability gets non-interrupted in your group, you got problems because you got interrupts for days in this group. So now we're going to look at a caster cleave group. Now, what I just said about the melee group is that it had tons of interrupts. The caster cleave group doesn't really have a lot of interrupts. So that is something you would want to be looking for. Again, Blood DK. Always need a Blood DK. So, and we're going to rock a Feral here. We're going to grab, again, an Arms Warrior. To me, a Blood DK and an Arms Warrior is just an automatic must. Now, we're going to grab an Ellie Shaman here. This group's going to look a little different, but I like it. An H-Pal. We're going to grab our Disc Priest. And now, excuse me, you could grab another Priest here and make it Shadow. We're going to grab a Boomkin, a Demonology Warlock, and then we're going to grab a Fire Mage. Now, you can swap these in and out or just have this person flex and then just grab another. Like you could grab, if you wanted, you could grab a Hunter maybe. So like you could just swap out the Shadow Priest and then make this Disc Priest flex and then grab a Survival Hunter. That'd be fine. But let's say you don't, and let's actually say you have 2 priests. Now, same thing here is you're actually covering a lot of things that you didn't think you would. Pretty much everything except for your 3% damage. Everything else is covered. But again, this is just a highly spell cleave group, and not a lot of interrupts here, so you're really going to be rocking or relying on the Arms Warrior. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe. Again, these are just 4 of my best comps that you could possibly use in a 10-man scenario. Cataclysm raids are coming right around the corner. If you guys have any other ideas for comps, please put them in the comments. I like and I enjoy watching and looking at your comments and trying to answer as much as I can. So if you guys have better comps, feel free to put them in there. People could use them. So I appreciate you guys watching the video. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys another time.